Hi everyone, welcome to the Indian Sun. My name is Sonia Singha and I will be your host for today's show. Indian culture in the movie is often painted with Bollywood music, dance, and vibrant colors. Well, as much as it is true, guilty as charged, there is a lot more that escapes the television world. As we know, India is a land of diversity. With different cultures comes a vibrant mixed bag of languages, people, and religions. Today on our show, we have the crew of our upcoming movie, Analla, who have chosen to steer away towards the world of spirituality and culture through the eyes of Rani, an immigrant who came to Australia and her story of her beliefs during the Black Saturday bushfires. So we have Prince and Matt today with us, who will walk us through the journey of their creative thinking and process. So thank you guys for being on the show, firstly.
Oh, thanks for having us. It's amazing that anyone cares about our movies.
We do. We totally do. So I will get you guys to maybe briefly introduce yourselves to the audience and what is your part in the production. So Matt, we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm the writer director of the film, and Prince, he's the cinematographer, but he's a lot more than that. The story came from him and his family friends, which he told back to me in 2017, and we've been working together since we started film school.
Yeah, and so I, as the cinematographer, I take care of all the camera side of things, and it's just been a sort of great experience working with Matt and bringing this film to life. So really excited for it.
Alrighty, that's great. That was actually going to be my first question to you, friends. So how did Analla come to life and what was behind the ideation? Just tell us everything, spill everything.
Well, I didn't actually even see it as a film. I was just telling a story. And this is a story that family friends of mine told me of their experience on Black Saturday. We were just all sitting around a fire one night talking about this.
We're in Warburton.
Yeah, just talking about this amazing story about this couple opening up a shop on Black Saturday, a petrol station on Black Saturday. So from that, I think Matt just was really drawn to it and yeah, took it from there.
Yeah, no, I distinctly remember Prince telling me that story because we were doing an assignment up in Warburton, and Warburton was one of the places was almost hit. The fires sort of in Marysville. So naturally we just started talking about bushfires, and like Prince said, he started to tell this story, and he was telling it very casually. You know, it was just a group of us, but I could see it all. I could see he particularly described the morning of Black Saturday, which is the segment we're filming for the proof of concept. And, you know, I just kept asking, and then what happened? And then what happened? And, you know, he was totally unaware of what I was doing. And then he went to bed and I just wrote the whole thing down because I knew that this was a sort of golden idea and that I think most people who were alive to witness Black Saturday would want to see it. And of course, the unique perspective of a Indian recent immigrant couple and this woman who's devoutly religious. I just thought it would make an incredible film, and it's taken this long, but the first opportunity we got to pitch it to a legitimate studio like Sanjive Entertainment, we just had to tell someone. We just had to try and get it made, and they've chosen to take a chance on us with this proof of concept, and hopefully it leads to making the real thing.
Really, that's great. So I actually read through a couple of information here. So I understand there is a lot of emphasis on the Hindu religion here. So Rani, who is the protagonist, I believe, is a strong believer of Hinduism. So how was your creative process in terms of like getting the context right, the words, the facts right? Because I kind of saw a lot of symbolism in the movie. So you have like pujas, you have reference to Agni, and you know the Tandav dance. How was all of that element incorporated?
Well, really, my kind of rule as a writer is you do not start writing until you've done your research. And this script required a lot of research, not only historical research, but research around Hinduism and you know what it's, because I'm very aware that you know I was writing from a different culture, and really but it was a great experience because I had firsthand research through Prince and his family. So quite often I would outline a sequence in the film, and maybe it involved a ritual, and then we would go to Prince and his family and his mum in particular. So shout out to her, she's amazing. She would list off any rituals that were appropriate symbolically and really describe what they meant. We were doing 5-hour-long phone calls and before we'd write anything, and then I'd sort of absorb that information and then sort of write, I guess, like a treatment for a film. So yeah, it was researching before doing anything else. And then we felt like, okay, now we've got the story and we're ready to start writing.
And I was born in India. I was brought up there, and I moved here when I was little. So all of that, the practices and stuff, that comes from, I'm a practicing Hindu, and that it's really sort of special to me, and you don't see that on films. So having that perspective really sort of, just helped develop it. And there's just so many threads from a narrative standpoint, from the character standpoint, where you can tie in things, and it's not much of a stretch. So it's really rewarding as a process as well to work with Matt and sort of flesh out those things.
Yeah, beauty. Man, I think I might direct this question to you, but Prince, feel free to jump in. So in regards to the script, what was challenging about bringing the script to life? And did you have any setbacks in particular?
That's a really good question. Always challenging. Well, I mean, to be honest, the challenge was in the research, and it was making sure we were accurate, I think. And also, it was a balance between trying to be sort of accurate and respectful to practicing Hindus would watch this film, and also trying to decide what to keep into the film. Like, for example, you mentioned the Homa, the puja ritual, which is very important symbolically because it is sort of it reflects what happens later in the film when Rani basically becomes this like pseudo mother to strangers who come into the petrol station. But of course, we can't necessarily show the whole ritual in the time that we have for an hour-long film on television. So there was a lot of deciding. Okay, maybe we do it in a montage, or we jump in time throughout the day. All those kind of decisions. There were a lot of work, and just from my perspective as a writer, I needed to make sure I knew every element of this ritual, so I knew what I was cutting and why I was cutting it. And I think another huge challenge was tying in the B story of the Australians, and not wanting to paint anybody in a kind of stereotypical way, especially the Indian characters, but also the Australians. We don't want them to come off as bogans and backward, all that kind of stuff. I didn't want, that's a very like sort of narrow way of looking at culture. So that was also a challenge, to striking the balance between the two stories.
Alrighty. So as you mentioned, since you have to highlight both the characters, like Australian origins and characters from Indian origins as well, do you think if the narrative has any kind of emphasis or draws any parallel in terms of the two countries? And are there any elements which might highlight something of a similar nature, like kind of aligning both the cultures and countries together and then presenting it out to the television world?
Well, yeah, that's one of the motivations behind wanting to make this script, is that we're trying to, the term Australian is such a loose term, and like we're all a mixing pot here in Australia. So, but I think the private lives that Rani and Sunil lead, I think a lot of Anglo-Saxon Australians wouldn't have any idea about the rituals and the kind of culture that's almost hidden from an Anglo-Saxon audience. Mm-hmm. Equally, we wanted to show the culture of Australia. There was this really nice parallel that we drew early on between during the puja, there's walking around the fire, you know, and also then later in the film when the single mother and daughter Ruth and Nadia are in the forest cleaning up after like a forest party, they're doing it. Their ritual and what I was sort of raised up with is if you go camping, you leave a place better than how you found it. And in that sense, that's their ritual, and they're going around a fire and picking up, you know, cans and cigarette butts. So I guess what we're trying to say is that, I mean, both of these things are part of Australian culture. It's just that they're both done privately.
And Prince, would you like to add to that?
I mean, he has a way with words, just like everything. I'm trying to, what can I add? No, he's raised that. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you know, like for me, it's about that balance of your cultural identity with where you live. And, you know, and there are similarities. We're all like people, and we're all human, and the main point of the story is to put everyone in this really challenging circumstance, and they pull through together. So yeah, from that aspect, it's more about, you know, it's human stories, and just all their perspective is their background. But at the end, navigate it together. And then, yeah, I mean, that's all I can add pretty much.
Alrighty, beauty. Thank you for that. And would I be right in saying that in terms of this story with Rani and Sunil, it's partially based on a true event, and partially has been like some of the instances have been drawn from actual, how do I say, like actual characters, actual people? Like, would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, it's definitely correct. The real couple, you know, they gave their blessing. That was one of the first things we checked. Was I told Prince, I want to make this someday. Somehow, I really want their permission, and they did. They gave their blessing. They just said, look, you know, change the characters' names, all that kind of stuff. But they were very supportive, particularly of Prince's career at that point. Was still studying. You know, they thought it would be, you know, more so in service of Prince.
As the sun shines on it.
And also the even though a lot of the characters are sort of fictitious, like particularly the Australian characters, they came from true stories from Black Saturday documentaries and interviews and everything like that. There is a key moment in the telefeature where Ruth, the single mother, is able to orientate herself and figure out how far she is from home. And that came from a true story of this guy who decided to try and defend his property. And at one point, on his way back to his farm, he passed out because of the smoke fumes. And when he woke up, he just was able to get his bearings, and because he was a local and lived there his whole life, he managed to find his way back home. And I thought that was really inspiring and really fit thematically into our film. So yeah, it's sort of a mixture between true life events and fictitious characters.
Alrighty. Okay, so I've got an interesting question for you now that you mentioned that. So if you were to sum it up, if you were to give like a trailer of your movie, not in terms of pictures, but in terms of words, how would you sum it up for the audience to actually come and watch your movie? What would be like that unique selling point that you would like to highlight?
Wow, that's a really good question. Well, first and foremost, it's a historical drama centered on Black Saturday, and I think from as far as I've seen in Australia, from a unique perspective that no event on this scale has been told from, and I feel like it relates to all Australians because we're all immigrants, unless you're a First Nations person. You know, even if you've lived here your whole life like me, we're still immigrants. So it is a historical drama told from the perspective of almost every Australian.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough. Okay. I was actually very curious to know, and I think the audience might be very curious to know as well. What does Analla stand for?
See, well, that is almost it's almost a real word. If you drop one of the L's.
Yeah, I think it comes from Sanskrit. Analla,
and it means
like fire. It's
and child of fire, I believe, is what it means. Yeah. A child of fire.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Alrighty. That's a beautiful name.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? We saw that and we're like, oh, that's the title of the movie.
I actually Googled and I was like, okay, Analla was like the first baby names. I was like, okay, that's a pretty big, good baby name to go with. Alrighty. The next question that I had for you guys was in terms of the production, I believe you're in amidst the production. So you mentioned that it would be sometime in May that you would like wrap it up.
Yeah, so the proof of concept is 6 minutes, or 6 feasible minutes from the full tele feature, which is 57 pages. So we're filming over 3 days in the last week of May, and the scenes we're filming are sort of the morning of Black Saturday when they arrive at the petrol station.
I see. And in terms of the movie actually being released, what platforms are we looking at in terms of the movie being released on?
Well, the proof of concept will be available on Channel 31, so free broadcast. But it is more, what it is really is hopefully a tool to try and get financing for the full tele feature. So I'd love for everybody to see the proof of concept, but it is more so marketing. And we're hoping Sunjive thinks that networks like SBS would be interested in financing the full tele feature. And this is one of helps us to try and get that financing.
I see. Okay. And my last question that I have for you guys is, what kind of reactions are you expecting from the audience in terms of this?
Hopefully they don't fall asleep. Well, it's really, we've sort of been talking about this from a visual standpoint. We're hoping to sort of frame it like a Western in terms of how the shots we use. So hopefully it's a very tense experience, because it's a really interesting concept, because the audience knows more than the characters, and that therefore creates tension. You're waiting for the thing to happen, Black Saturday to happen. So hopefully it's a very tense experience.
Alrighty, beauty. Prince, have you got anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I hope people, I mean, it's a film about reflection. It's a film about, it's one of our darkest days in Victoria. And it's still an issue that is, ever prevalent. Bushfires are getting worse every, season. And, of course, we hope that's not the case. But I guess it's about, just reflecting on how it affects people at the end of the day, and different people, from different backgrounds.
It's community. It's all about community, really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I hope from that we can garner enough support to make, a film that we really want to share.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show, guys. And I wish you all the very best with the production. And again, I hope it's a massive success. I hope SBS picks it. I hope all the major news channels picks it, and all the television channels pick it as well. And fingers crossed.
Thank you, and thank you to Indian Sun and anyone who's took the time to watch this. It's amazing, that we take time out of your day to hear us talk. Yeah. So we really appreciate it.
You have a good one.
You too.
See you.
Bye-bye.